Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a really good topic, really important to boaters, both recreational and commercial, and that's the VHF radio. So VHF radios are great, however, if you don't use them right, you can get into some trouble. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I might even throw a little bit extra in towards the end, so stick around. Is interference. Interference is very common, especially in an area where you have a lot of boat traffic, a lot of communication going on. I know down here it gets really crazy, especially around the holidays. Get a lot of people on the water. It seems like everyone wants to come out on the water, which is great. But it does cause a lot of interference, a lot of transmission issues. Each radio normally has a high and a low setting, not frequency, but setting. So it's more about power. So you can transmit normally either on 1 watt or full wattage. So full wattage, if you have a fixed mount, it's going to be 25 watts. If you have a handheld, it's going to be 5, 6, whatever the power is of the radio. So it's going to be high or low. So I've noticed an example here is I will hear communication that is down by Las Olas or downtown Fort Lauderdale up in Pompano, and that's because they're communicating on 25 watts of power. So is it needed? Not always. If you're calling a bridge that is in the river of Fort Lauderdale, I don't need to hear you up at the lighthouse, at Hillsborough Inlet. So just by changing your wattage to high or low will greatly help impact or greatly reduce the amount of transmission interruption in other areas. So if you're only communicating or trying to communicate, a football field away, you don't need 25 watts of power. You also don't need 6 watts of power. So 1 watt is perfect for something like that, for calling a bridge. A lot of times if someone is on 25 watts of power, they're stepping on everyone around, and if everyone's on a schedule trying to get the same bridge, they're all trying to get that same call in when you're actually doing the call at the same time. So it's just something to think about. I know I have done it when I first moved down here. It was one thing that I really wasn't conscious about, because in coming from Atlanta on a lake, it didn't really matter. Not a lot of people use VHF radios. There wasn't a lot of shore stations or Coast Guard stations that would you'd communicate with, but down here in Fort Lauderdale, anywhere up and down the coast, it's definitely more of a concern. So it's something to be mindful. We've all done it, but something to definitely think about. All right. So the other thing that I'll say got me into some trouble sometime. So when I first purchased this vessel, I took the word of the previous captain of how everything was mounted, installed, how it was wired, and I learned pretty quickly that it was not the case. I had some people out. Luckily, they're all just friends. We were down at the Fort Lauderdale Sandbar, and we were getting ready to leave. As you can assume, this boat is like 33 feet tall, all the way to the antennas. So I have to pretty much open all of the bridges going down and coming back. And one issue that I had is both of my fixed mounts. So even though I had the redundancy of 2 radios, they were both connected to the same power source and through the same breakers and through the same fuses. So at the time I had lost power, didn't know what had happened, didn't have any form of communication. Luckily, I was saved because I actually had a handheld, and I ended up using the handheld all the way back home, which saved me. Because otherwise, honestly, I don't know what I would do. I'd have to be using my cell phone, trying to communicate to somebody at the bridge, probably even having to call the Coast Guard to ask them for numbers, Googling them. I don't even know. It would just be a disaster. So lucky I was able to pull out a handheld. Was still able to call the bridges, no issues, no impact, no one even knew. Just one of those things that even though you think you have redundancy, it's always good to have a handheld, even on a 40-foot boat like this. When I have 2 fixed mount radios that probably cost close to $500-600 a piece, I still have a handheld just in case, just for that redundant power source, just for that extra little safety. Hey guys, all right, so another important aspect is the DSC side of your radio. So if you get a fixed mount, and some handhelds, they'll have a DSC function, which is that distress button that you'll notice on the, normally it's a red button, has a little plastic cover. But that thing, it has to be registered. And if you don't register it, and for some reason it gets pushed, no one knows where you are or who you are. So we're the Coast Guard or whoever, whatever power that be, is basically going to be tracing and trying to find a number, but it's not going to be associated to a boat. It's not going to have your name, phone number, address, or anything attached to it. So when you forget to register your radio or get that MMSI number programmed into your radio, it can cause some panic. And I've been out here a few times where they're trying to track a number. I know the Coast Guard has called and said, hey, you know, anyone in the vicinity, if you've heard it, if you receive the panic, to reach out to let them know and give them the coordinates. I assume they're probably trying to triangulate, which I'm sure takes a lot of resources and a lot of time. So you can definitely avoid that and avoid the panic if you go ahead and register your radio, get that MMSI number. The number actually has a lot of great benefits. We won't go into all of them, but you know, you can reach out to your friends. You can request their location. It's kind of like a direct pager. But you know, if you want to hear more about that, let me know. But at a minimum, definitely get it registered. Go and make sure not only you register it, but you also input it into the radio. And that way, any type of activation, someone can directly contact you or reach out to you directly, versus going around trying to search for something. But it's kind of like pranking 911 and then hanging up. The Coast Guard is going to try to respond to the best of their abilities. So, but if they can't find you, they can't find you. But it does create a little bit of a panic. So definitely, that's one to avoid. Let's dive into the types of radios. So there's three main types. We have the stationary fixed mount. We have what I'm going to call a handheld, which is a lower power. So it's normally between 1 and 6 watts, depending on the brand, manufacturer, and what you go with. And then we have a remote. So this is a remote mic. So one thing to notice is the remote mic is also a fixed mount, but it's stationed somewhere else within the boat. It doesn't have to be where you're at. You can see right now I'm in the tower of a Sportfish, and I have the one radio fixed mount here, and then I actually have a remote mic which goes downstairs. So I have 2 radio options on the top of the tower, and I also have 2 radio options on the bottom of the tower. This one itself is also a remote station downstairs. So I normally don't bring the handheld VHF up here. So some things to think about if you're looking to have a boat, or you're going to be permanently using the boat on a body of water. I would definitely recommend getting a fixed mount. Has a stronger power, allows to get you some longer range. They normally have a lot more features if you do end up using them. All right, so just a quick recap. So, some quick do's and don'ts. So definitely check that interference. Make sure you're not transmitting, stepping on everybody else when you don't need to. That distress button, definitely fill out your form, get your MMSI number, get it programmed. Try to avoid some accidental activations, and also choose the right radio that's for your boat, whether it be fixed mount, remote, or a handheld. So all of them are great options. Doesn't even hurt to have all 3 of them. I'll actually put a link in the description and tag up here to the handheld that I personally really like and have really gotten a lot of use out of. So if you guys did get any value out of this video, please do consider giving a thumbs up, like and subscribe. If you want to see more, subscribe. We're going to have more videos out, and if you want to hear more about VHF radios, maybe an in-depth review or discussion about how to actually use a radio, let me know. Drop me a comment, and I will see you next time on the water. Thanks.